Welcome, gorgeous women. Such an exciting topic we have today in our third episode to the Feminine Podcast. Today, we talk about an orgasmic life and what does it actually mean? How can we conquer pleasure? What does it serve? And what are the benefits of living a sensual, sexual, pleasurable, orgasmic life? Hi, and welcome to the Feminine Podcast, your weekly source of feminine guidance and inspiration. I'm Wana Stojanovic, CEO and founder of the Feminine Platform, transformational coach, and a rite of passage facilitator. Here at the Feminine Podcast, we view every woman's life as a canvas, each stroke filled with stories that shape and empower you. Join me in this unique journey as we explore the rich tapestry of emotions, passions, and profound questions that we encounter on the feminine path. This isn't just a podcast. It's a sacred space where your voice matters, where healing and inspiration unite, where a community of curious, powerful, and passionate women come together to trailblaze what it means to live a feminine embodied life. Are you ready to embrace a life filled with passion? Create from the depths of your heart and fully embody the essence of the feminine? Look no further. You found your sanctuary. Welcome, everybody. So let's dive right in. Orgasm. What does it mean? That's actually one of the number one questions we received, right? What does it actually mean to have an orgasm? Why is it so difficult for us women to live a pleasurable life and an orgasmic life? Did you know that 80% of the people, women actually, 85% of the women don't experience orgasm their whole life? And yet, that is number one gift that the feminine has bestowed for us. So why? Why aren't we living it? Why aren't we remembering the ways of ecstatic living? Why is it so hard for us to connect with this experience? And I'm going to back down a little bit from answering a lot of questions because I want to make this a series. So we're going to probably have part 2 and part 3. So stay tuned in the next couple of weeks because this is a very important topic and we need to understand it correctly. We need to get it from the basics because I think we talk a lot and there's a lot of talk about pleasure, but we don't really get into the full details of what it actually means, having our definitions and concepts and notions complete and accurate, right? When we talk about an ecstatic, orgasmic life, we talk of an experience an individual, man or woman, can have where their sense of pleasure, their sense of aliveness, and their sense of ecstasy is heightened by their conscious experience of the life force energy. So we're making a clear landmark, yes, between what we have understood as orgasm in the classical sense of the way, which is an experience of pleasure, of hormonal release through ejaculation for men, through pleasure and orgasm for women in the bedroom, in lovemaking, two bodies connecting, releasing their hormones after 5, 10, 20 minutes of amazing sex, hopefully. And that release, we consider an orgasm in the classical sense of the way. The ejaculation of sperm is considered an orgasm in the classical sense of the way. And we define that as a successful lovemaking, yes? And everybody, goes happily ever after in their own life. That's the classical view of orgasm. And it's beautiful and it's amazing. And if people have it, they can experience fulfillment, intimacy, connection. But what we are actually talking about when we are talking about living an ecstatic, orgasmic life is a complete transformation, a whole new world that awaits you once you open the doors to the most important catalyst, which is not the man for us women. It is the actual feminine energy. So living an orgasmic ecstatic life means having a conscious connection. And when I mean a conscious connection, what I mean is you have an experience, whether through your emotions, whether through your senses, whether through movement in your body, whether through visions and colors and sound, of the life force energy that moves through your body, moves around you, and moves through your lover. So all of the sudden, it is an energetic experience. That's why in order to experience an orgasmic life, you have to have a breakthrough in your ability to feel energy. And most of us are disconnected from that. We are living in a rhythm, in a hustle, in a disconnected environment from what sources energy and what brings energy into our life. The number one element being nature, the earth, Mother Nature, and the sun, Father Sky. So as disconnected human beings, we cannot have a full-on experience of our life force energy moving through our body and of the life force energy that's moving through the universe, which is sexual in nature and is the same with the feminine energy. So to be able to live an orgasmic life, one has to move out of their mind into an energetic, sensorial, bodily connected experience of living life, in which the first step of awakening is literally decluttering your sensorial channels, because you cannot feel energy, the subtle, unconscious pattern of energy and information, which is life and the universe, because there's no matter, unless you go into a non-rational experience. So you have to get out of your left mind and get into the right mind, right hemisphere, and connect in a creative manner with life. It is only then that your senses start to pick up the subtle nuances and through its receptacles, the information, the patterns of light and sound and energy, right, of which the universe is made. So when one has a breakthrough, leaving her left hemisphere and dives into the right hemisphere, she will have to use different tools to communicate. So she will have to use her senses and her intuition to make sense of the world around her in a non-rational way, in this new dimension, in this new door that opens a whole new universe. Your logic is useless. You now have to navigate like a sensorial creature. So your taste, your sounds, your ears, your eyes, your mouth, the touch, your movement are the ways in which you are going to tap into, communicate, receive, and send off signals. With what? With whom? With yourself, with the energy and the environment around you, and with your lover. That makes you a wild sensorial creature who is now open to communicate. So, open to communicate is, in a sense of the way, equal to ready to make love. With what? With everything. That's the magic. With everything that is a living, breathing experience, right? Living, breathing thing, being. So then lovemaking transfers from two individuals releasing their hormones in 20 minutes of lovemaking, in which there's sexual penetration, to a communication with everything that is channeling energy within you and around you, where the sense of pleasure starts with the experience of heightened aliveness, where you feel colors to a whole new level of intensity, you hear sounds to a whole new level of intensity, you appreciate silence and darkness to a whole new level because they are the counterforce of color and sound. You experience movement, whether it's inner movement, outer movement, relationship in movement, in a sensorial, heightened, intense experience that gives you goosebumps. You then are called by the energy that starts already communicating with the environment into a hunch, an intuition, an experience, an emotion, a sensation, a movement. So you are taken into the movement. The movement takes over. And the communication becomes 360 degrees. And you start experiencing the life force energy through your whole body. Because all of your senses are connected to the wholeness of your body. So in this new paradigm shift, making love is not sexual. It's not genital connected. Making love is a whole body experience. That's the foundation of full body orgasm. Full body orgasm is the capacity of heightened, intense life force energy moving like a river, unencumbered, freely through the riverbed in an intense manner. So it's a lot and it's intense and it's moving freely. Who's the riverbed? Yourself, your body, your energetic body, which is a subtle copy-paste body made of energetic and information and light and sound and patterns of light and sound and information of energy that is copy-paste of your physical body. So you start to feel the life force energy moving intensely through your energetic body. And if it's moving really intensely and there's no blockage between the communication channels of your energetic subtle body and your physical body, you will start feeling that rush through the physical body, and your physical experience of that energetic connection, orgasm dynamic starts to be more heightened, more alive, more complete and complex, because there's no disconnect between your physical body and your energetic body. And for that to become available, one first has to understand there's an energetic body that's a copy of the physical body. Whether you see it, feel it, or understand it or not, that exists. There's proven science. The fact that you don't feel it is because you're disconnected from energy. And you're living in your logical, beautiful, intellectual mind, which for this particular purpose doesn't help you at all. And you're disconnected from the practice of feeling in subtle ways life around you. So it's not that you're not able to feel it. It's not that you don't have it in you. It's that you've been disconnected and you've learned something completely different, the opposite. So now you have to relearn everything you know. And it will take time. It will be a process. You cannot just jump from I want to into I'm feeling it. And that's where people sometimes lose their focus, or they lose their availability, or their, stamina, their energy, because it takes a while and they get easily frustrated of not feeling and they think it doesn't work. It doesn't work in general. It doesn't work for them. Neither one of these assumptions or limiting beliefs are true. It will take time because you are clogged. Your internal communication channels are clogged because you have lived a disconnected life. What does a disconnected life mean? A disconnected life in relationship to the energy that you are made of, in relationship to the subtle energy patterns of the universe. The moment that awakens in you, and if you're wondering how, Well, it's through breath work, it's through guided meditations, it's through feminine practices, everything we're teaching here. Everything builds up to create and give you this momentum. And eventually, through practice and time and patience and focus, you start getting unclogged and you start feeling it. And you feel the rush of energy, or you feel the energy of the feminine within you through sensorial experiences, very slow at the beginning, but they will grow. Through emotions that are, bubbling up, and maybe they will bubble up in a negative manner because you have been suppressing a lot for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years. So that's a lot of suppression. It's still, you need to declutter, you need to detox before the riverbed is free and clean and the river can flow unencumbered, right? Your body is the riverbed. The river is the sexual flow energy of Shakti. You have it, it's in you, you're made of it. And your only purpose is to allow and to cleanse yourself. But you're not just cleansing the body, you're also cleansing your awareness, your level of consciousness, your ability to feel subtly things around you. And your senses are the stepping stone. They are your spiritual teachers. They will be your guides. It will be a sensorial experience. That's the first stage. That's why sensuality is extremely important for everybody who wants to have a breakthrough with their sexuality. That's why being sensual is the number one step before anything else. Especially if you have experienced trauma in relationship to your sexuality, you have to start with sensuality. And stay tuned, we have a surprise for you. And it is about awakening your senses. It is about learning the language of your senses, which will give you tremendous benefits, not just in the orgasmic area, but also in your spirituality, because it is through your senses that you will start to feel the unknown. It's a very intimate connection between the wild creature in us and the wise priestess, because they both function in the same way, through their senses. Their senses are their communication, their tools, their language. So you move from rational language into sensorial language, and then you have to become able to navigate and communicate inside of those new set of rules. So that's step number one. And then what will happen is you go through a transformation. That's another thing that happens. People don't understand it properly, and they experience this. They're confused about it because there's very little information in the process and in the subject that we're addressing. You're going through a phase where you have to break down the patterns and the dynamics internally that you have accessed pleasure until now. So there is a transmutation that happens. There's an awakening. Your senses start to declutter. You're starting to feel more heightened. You have a heightened experience and heightened awareness. Yes, through the practice, you see intense colors. You become more heightened with sound. You become sound sensitive. The world around you with all its stimulus starts to become a heightened experience. And that is opening the aliveness. That is opening the experience of feeling into the energy, which is very intense. The energy is very intense. We're not wired to feel it to its intensity because of trauma, because of conditioning, because we're disconnected and we have clogged riverbeds, basically. Our riverbeds are not strong. Our body, our psyche is not strong. This life force energy is very intense. It is the only energy that moves against gravity on Earth. Picture that for a second. It is the only energy that can move against gravity. It will go upwards. Who goes upwards? Only Elon Musk. And he's still struggling. So, it's a joke, of course. So the life force energy is huge. It's intense. It's powerful. And we're crippled by our traumas, by our disconnected life, by our hustle, by being in the mind too much. So we have to become stronger. We have to clean the riverbed. We have to become stronger in our psyche so that the intensity of the life force energy that will move through us can move through us. And that will take a process because each one of us is in a different stage in their own cleansing and healing and awakening and empowering process. So that's very, very important to understand. So the second, after this heightened experience, after this rush and aliveness, comes the deconditioning, the transmutation process, because we have created a makeup. And in our makeup, we have experienced pleasure or the lack of it in a particular way through the set of wounds, experiences, decisions we have made along our sexual life, starting early, starting 2, 3 years, 5 years old. Okay? And now, Shakti, the life force energy, has a problem. Whatever your amazing, successful sexual dynamic is, you may be an amazing sexual, fully vibrant, orgasmic woman, or the opposite, or as somewhere in the middle. No matter how successfully you have orgasms, it will be very small in comparison to what's available and what Shakti can offer and what Shakti is. So however you have patterned your sexuality, it's constrictive to Shakti. So now Shakti needs to move higher, deeper, wider, more intensely, and it doesn't have room. So now comes the transmutation process because you have to become bigger. Your riverbed needs to widen. You're not enough for her to move through you. She will burn you out, which is actually something very important to understand, which I take very good care of in my processes and in my practices because I've seen these burnouts and they're ugly. And people want to rush because they're, spoiled brats and impatient adolescents, and they want to feel more. It's like a drug, right? Feeling more, feeling pleasure, feeling heightened can be a substitute for drugs, right? It's just we all want that rush and we want it quick. But there's a fallout, just like with drugs. You're not ready for that. And you have to build up that readiness, and it will take practice and it will take time, and you have to be wise and patient because it can burn you. It can burn your body, it can burn your energetic body, and it can burn your psyche, which is the most dangerous side effects of it all. So sexual energy is not something you want to play with. You want to take it seriously. You want to be devoted because you are not capable as a riverbed to allow the river to move through you. And that's how you should look at it. And with humility and humbleness, sit with the intention, right? Sit with the intention to allow, to let Shakti, the feminine sexual energy, guide you into becoming ready. So all of the sudden, you realize, what? It's not the man? What? I'm in love and he's not going to make me a woman? He's not going to give me those full body orgasms, one after the other, 5 hours in a row? What? But he's it. He's Prince Charming. He's number one. Well, he is it. He is Prince Charming and he's your number one. Good luck and great for him. But he's not going to give you the full body orgasms. He's just, what he is in this experience? The match that just allows for a fire to get turned on. You are the fire. Now, do we need a match to build a fire? Sometimes we need a match to build a fire. Is the match accountable for the bigness of the fire? No. Who's accountable for the bigness of the fire? The woods on which you build the fire. And in this case, the woods are you, the fire is Shakti. So fire happens, is the grace of God. The match shows up, perfect. Now you need the woods. You need the riverbed. You need on which the fire can be lit up. But the magnitude of the fire, which equals with the magnitude and the intensity of pleasure and orgasm, has nothing to do with the match. Okay? On the contrary, the humble match will be gracefully grateful for the experience of pleasure, of which he will never ever be capable, because there's a sacredness between you as a woman and Shakti, because you as a woman are the embodiment of Shakti in human life. So as a consequence, you receive two gifts. One is the experience of full body ecstatic orgasms and multiple orgasms, which is something only you can experience to this extent. And second, the gift of birthing life. This is your heritage. Both of them have nothing to do with men. They are a catalyst. I'm not diminishing men's role into this. But what sparks the fire is life force energy. The sacredness, the sacred relationship is between you and the life force energy. And he is a match. He will stir you up and he will be a catalyst. And as a reward for his important role in this amazing triangle, he will receive pleasure and he will receive offsprings and kids to carry on his bloodstream and his genes and his legacy into the world. So he's rewarded for his important significance in the process. But the capacity, the availability, the magnitude of the fire, the spark of it comes from Shakti, and the magnitude comes from you allowing her to be to her fullest. And then comes the third process, which we're going to discover today, and we're going to talk more about that in our next episode. The third process is, how do I allow and how do I receive Shakti? And how do I make her alive in my life, in my body? And here comes the actual transformation, because you have to let go of the belief that your potential for pleasure lies in your sexual interaction with a man. And then you have to figure out that your potential for pleasure lies in your interaction with yourself and through yourself with the life force energy that moves through you, will move through you, through the practice, through the sensorial rituals, through the sensual and sexual experiences that you build up in relationship to the sexual energy. Full body orgasm can happen through breath work. You can have your clothes on, don't talk with anybody, be in complete meditation, and the energy will activate. It doesn't even have to be a sexual practice. You know, full body orgasm is the capacity to move through the body, intense levels of energy that can move upwards on the central channel, energetic central channel of your energetic body, right? And it can, move into the womb, move into the heart, move into the crown, and shower like a fountain all over you. If it moves up until the crown and it becomes a fountain all over you, you are having a full body orgasm. But it can move up to the heart or the solar plexus, and you can experience an energetic release of that intense momentum. The energy has built up, healing your chakras along the way. And for those of you who haven't heard of chakras, please Google 7 chakras, energetic body, Hindu tradition, and you will get your ABC on the subject. So you have that momentum. Now, to allow Shakti to move through you, the most important verb is to allow. That means you have to cultivate an environment internally of relaxation, of sensitivity, of being receptive, of allowing, of being a riverbed, of being the glass on which the water is poured. So it's about allowing. And whatever doesn't help you allow and be receptive is what's in the way. And you will have to start distinguishing what's in the way. And it may be your feelings of shame and guilt and your religious beliefs that tell you that sex is a sin because your priest is telling you that in confession. It may be however your parents talked to you as an adolescent and what are your actual physical sexual experiences, especially if you had traumatic experiences with the sexual energy. But it's also stress, living in the mind, being totally disconnected from your body and experiencing tension in your body and not releasing that tension through massage, through movement, through, just relaxing music and unwinding, and seeing that that's first stage of allowing, right? So 1, 2, 3 practices until our next amazing hot episode is allow, relax, and connect with your senses. Very quick exercise. Stretch like a cat in the morning before you turn off your Instagram. Plug into that whole rhythm of life for 2 minutes. Smile to yourself and caress yourself, your breasts, your hips, your belly, not in a sexual way. Just touch your body. Wake up your body. And then when you have your coffee, look over at the window, even if it's raining. Right now it's raining for me here, but I have green leaves and I'm seeing these amazing water drops and I'm experiencing this touching experience of the water caressing my skin. I just go into this exploration sensorially of what I'm seeing in front of me. So connect with the plant you have in your office, or look over at the window, look at the sky, look at the clouds. Drink your coffee by going with your mind into this sensorial, relaxed, right hemisphere experience. Look at colors all around you. Look at sounds. The dog who's barking, the neighbor who's, grumpy. Connect for a couple of seconds. Make that loud internally. Turn that on. Put an amazing song. Dance naked or not in your kitchen while you're making breakfast for your kid or preparing his snacks or her snacks for school. Make that a sensorial experience. It doesn't take time, but you need to create an environment. We're going to talk about that in our next episode. There's a very important key element of living an orgasmic life, which is developing an environment in which pleasure thrives. And in the current environment you're living, 100%, I can presume, pleasure doesn't thrive. So that's one practice. Open up your senses. Touch silk, touch different materials, concrete, wood. Just touch them. They're all around you. You don't have to have a devoted practice, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Just touch everything around you. Feel its texture. Pay attention. That's waking up the senses. Second is allow. Allow your body to tell you things. Just, I'm stressed, I'm tired, I have tension in my lower back. Just pay attention to what your body is feeling. That's it. You don't have to do anything about it, but pay attention. You can journal it down. And the third thing, I would start with, since you're here, right? And to some degree or extent, you have connected with our practices one way or the other. Pay attention to your emotions. Activate your senses. Pay attention to your body and what's experiencing, and pay attention to your emotions and journal all of that and make it a 7-10 days experience until our next episode. So, having said all of that, we are ready to take some questions. Let's see if we have some live questions now. And we have a lot of questions through your amazing input. That's why we're going to need a couple of episodes on this. And don't worry, we're going to get to intimacy and relationships very soon. We will intertwine them for a while. Also sensuality and also trauma and how to heal from sexual abuse and sexual trauma or emotional trauma that hampers our sexuality and our capacity to feel alive and pleasure. So we're in for a ride in our next trimester. hang in there. We're going to respond to everything and keep asking questions, because I love to be overwhelmed with questions by you. I have so many questions. I can just dive in. I want to wrap up the answer to the first question I started this session with, which is, what is an orgasm? So what we are talking about, we're talking about an energetic orgasm, which is an energetic, sensorial, emotional. It can be either sensorial and energetic, just physical and energetic, or emotional and all of the above experience of the sexual energy moving through your body. Lovemaking is just a way in which the sexual energy can be activated and can move into your body and through your body. Breath work is another way. Moving the body in particular rhythms is another way. Sacred dancing and shaking and different practices that are connected to moving the body. It's a complex repertoire. And literally learning how to direct the sexual and how to activate it and direct it through the energetic channels of your energetic body. So these are all ways, they perfectly go together, they complement one another, and they have the same purpose: to awaken the sexual energy and allow it to build up momentum in your energetic body. And when that momentum is built up, there's an accumulation, like a peak of energy, and that's what you experience as orgasm. And it can be just an energetic experience of pleasure, but you're feeling it on an energetic level, and it's very intense. It can be energetic and physical, so you're making love or you're doing breath work, and the energy moves into the physical body in the same time, and you are experiencing pleasure also on a physical level, right? You may have orgasms in your clitoral area, you may have orgasm in your G-spot, you may have an orgasm in penetration and cervix area, which are the three main places of orgasm. Another episode, oh my God. So we're going to talk about that, very important actually. So you can have energetic experiences of this when the energy just opens up different portals within your body. Cervix, clitorian, and G-spot. You can have it 4 ways, either through lovemaking or self-masturbation, or through breath work techniques. And then it can move upwards through breath work and guided meditation and movement, upwards towards the crown, also in lovemaking. And then you experience an energetic experience in the higher chakras. And what can happen is, apart from this experience of deep release, deep freedom, deep getting out of your mind into a pulsating, shaking with energy type of experience, right? You feel freedom and pleasure, and it's to an extent in which the body, the physical body, starts moving. The Shakti energy moves the body. We can even put you upwards, like you're in bed, you're making love, and all of a sudden energy starts moving through you, and you can even jump almost half a meter from the mattress because it's moving against gravity, okay? It moves the body. Of course, in intense experiences, right? You need to activate sound. Sound is very important. You need to release sound in this type of experiences, because sound is also a carrier of energy. So sound will make Shakti move upward and upward and upward. And releasing sound and giving a voice to that energy and that movement internally amplifies the intensity of the energy. And every single time you have an orgasm, you die, which is glorious. You die on an ego level. French got it. French got it because French understood that orgasm is called, in French literature, French are very good with sex, and they really got it. And they understood that orgasm is le petit death. They call it the little death, Because every single time you have an energetic orgasm, you get out of your body and you transmute into a higher level of consciousness. So your ego dies with every orgasm. And that's very important. That's one of the functions of the sexual energy, and the full body orgasm is to release the grip of the ego onto you and to become freer and more expanded in your consciousness. So it's a very spiritual practice. It's a very sacred experience that has amazing benefits in raising your frequency, your vibration, your level of consciousness. And it's 100% pleasurable. So that's orgasm, or at least that's orgasm here at the feminine. And of course, we celebrate all the other orgasms, including the physical ones, through lovemaking by ourselves and with our lovers. We want them all. We're not going to suppress anything. So that's question number one, and I hoped I did answer it properly. And if not, just, after our live session, tag me and ask anything, and I will explain. So another one which is connected to that, and I think it was very important, it's also technical, let's say, and it can go fast, is it said that for men it's good to practice semen retention. How about us women? Should we also stop from climaxing, or an orgasm actually helps us in the manifestation process? So semen retention is how men can actually activate this experience on an energetic level. And it's what they need to take into account 100%, especially as they grow older, because their libido and their capacity for being aroused and being turned on and having a strong libido is connected to semen retention. So when they ejaculate, men lose their life force energy. They lose years out of their life, basically. They don't have access to infinite streams of energy. We are the only ones who have had that, because we have also the gift of giving life. And in that experience, we embody the death-life circle. And we have infinite access to energy. For them, it's something they have to spiritually work. And semen retention is how they develop a capacity for this energetic experience. It's like the same with menopause. I'm not going to get into menopause now, but it's, menopause is the death of the physical cycle, which is a symbolistic of the birth of the energetic, spiritual, sexual energy within a body. So it's actually a biological threshold and a spiritual portal into this spiritual awakening, into this capacity. Can you have it before menopause? Absolutely. But menopause is the biological threshold of that. And that's very, very, very important. For men, semen retention is what will push their consciousness from the physical experience of sex into the transcendental experience of sex. For us, it's the other way around. We need as many orgasms every single day. So women, to be in balance, to regulate their hormones. Somebody asked me about hormones. To regulate our hormones in premenopause, menopause, after menopause, in our 20s, in our 30s, in our 40s, one cure alone, one orgasm every day. Okay? Or at least a practice that is centered around connection with your body, cultivating pleasure, opening up sexually to yourself. The moment we have an orgasm every day, we are thriving. We're abundant. We're manifesting everything. We are spot on. We're literally spot on. It's just, we're at our top, okay? It can feel exhausting to have an orgasm every day. So, I don't think we can manage that level of intensity every single day. But some boot camps are probably a good way to start building that stamina and that rhythm to our sexual life. So orgasms are portals of awakening for us. They're spiritual breakthroughs on an energetic level. They regulate our hormones. They regulate our immune system. They give us the tonic experience of life. They help us build our stamina. They regulate our psyche and our emotional life. And it's what will eventually help us use that momentum and that high frequency energy of orgasm for manifestation, because you can have orgasms. It's called magical sex magic, right? You develop the capacity to have orgasms, and that energy, when you are experiencing an orgasm, you're directing it to your intentions in your sacred altar, because the energy will move where the mind goes. So if you're visualizing whatever you want to manifest and you're having an orgasm and you're directing your orgasmic energy into that visualization, you will probably manifest that quicker. It's called magic sex magic. We're not going to talk that another episode. But that's an ancient sacred knowledge and practice. So yes, very important for us to orgasm, not so much important for them. And if they do semen retention, they will have stronger erections, longer erections, and they will experience pleasure beyond an orgasm, beyond ejaculation, after a while, after a long time of practice. So whenever they want to ejaculate, they stop and they repress it. And that's their main practice. And they empower women to go into orgasm. And they will receive that energetic orgasm and they will start feeling it. And they will start to disconnect their experience of pleasure from ejaculation. And the huge benefits for men in that. Let's go into masturbation. Dear one, I have been unfolding and growing with your programs, and the transformation is amazing. I discovered pleasure, I activated my senses, I feel radiant, alive, sensual, and I learned how to surrender, to offer and receive pleasure with a man. But I still find it hard, and it's not so appealing for me to offer myself self-pleasure. I take care of myself, I honor my needs, I enjoy the sensuality activating rituals, but not sexual pleasure. And masturbation. I can't have an orgasm on my own. What could be the reasons behind? What should I do? What should I focus on? I would start with taking the pressure that the exploration of your physical body in a sexual way needs to lead to orgasm. Hell, if you ask me, I would take the pressure of having an orgasm in lovemaking with a man, because that's not the point. It's not a competition. It's not a contest. You don't have to perform. On the contrary, performing will not give you access to allowing. This is not a men's sport. So yeah, your man needs to provide you with an orgasm because they are educated that unless you orgasm, they're not good men and they're not men enough. So now, unconsciously, they're going to put a pressure onto you having an orgasm because it's the only way they validate their manhood. Another subject for another episode. However, the pressure is there. It's in our collective subconscious. So I would take the pressure and I would make the disconnect that cultivating pleasure, which will eventually, naturally, spontaneously, without control, lead to an orgasmic life, needs to start with exploring your body and the pleasure of it with no purpose and no agenda and no objective. I don't care if you don't have an orgasm because that's not relevant. Drop that complete concern and just enjoy your body. Watch yourself in the mirror and touch yourself, and it doesn't have to be sexual, from head to toe with love, gentleness, and care. Maybe you don't need pleasure. Maybe you need just love. Maybe you just simply need a hug and a touch. So for us as women, pleasure and orgasm is not connected to sex. It's very much connected to love and how tenderly, lovingly, soft we can feel with ourselves, with our body. How much we can allow ourselves to just be. So I would start with giving myself permission to just be, and then starting this amazing process called falling in love with myself. Just like any relationship, when you're on a date and you decide, I want to give this guy a try, I want to open up, you start developing a dynamic, a relationship, a concern for falling in love. And you will allow yourself to fall in love, and sometimes you even help him help you fall in love, right? So you're doing stuff to fall in love with this guy that you decided deserves a chance. Well, give yourself a chance as well. Start falling in love with yourself and start with small steps. Start dancing, start relaxing, start looking at what's beautiful with your body and what's beautiful with your sensuality, what's beautiful with yourself as a woman. Start dressing up a little bit, not for the men, for you. Start appreciating things that, you like about yourself, and start saying to the things you don't like about your body, about yourself as a woman, I love you. I love you with your wrinkles. I love you with your belly. I love you with your big hips. I love you with your cellulite. I love you. I love you. And I like that about you. And I'm in love with that about you. And then you may progress to the next step, which is looking at yourself in the mirror. And then taking some of the clothes off and start looking at your body with admiration, and start hugging yourself in the mirror and caress with gentleness every single inch of your body, not for the purpose of having an orgasm, but for the purpose of knowing yourself, of touching yourself, of smelling yourself, of tasting yourself, of looking at yourself in the mirror, of coming to know yourself. Falling in love starts with knowing oneself and knowing the other. So you're knowing yourself and you're giving yourself permission to know yourself. I would start with that, and I would leave the pressure of having an orgasm completely. Orgasms happen. You don't have to work for them. They happen when you allow orgasmic nature. You have it already. It's your heritage. What's in the way is your mind, and what's in the way is the uncomfortableness of giving yourself space, time, permission to discover yourself, your sexuality. And of course, a lot of shame, guilt, or traumatic experiences may rise up. That's why the whole process is about being gentle. And when these are bubbling up from within your body, from within your heart, from within your psyche, you need to stop the sensual practice and you need to focus on loving your inner child and healing and giving yourself the medicine you need, which may not be a sexual thing. And when you have given yourself that, then you can come back to the sensual practice. So that's what I would focus on. The same with getting into the feminine energy. It was another question. How do I get into the feminine energy? The same, right? Another question. Let's see. I have 2 more questions and then we will wrap it up, and we will use, I think 3 more questions. Sorry. I think they're very powerful and they inspired me. We'll wrap it up after these 3 questions, and then we'll use all of them and all the ones that will come in our next episode. I feel like I'm not allowed to look at men the same way as men are looking at me, even if it's just like a beautiful man and just sneaking onto him. I should not express it in any way, not even a smile. I feel like my sexuality is not taken seriously and I should not feel what I feel. Okay, from the very get-go, I love this question for 2 reasons, because I think it talks about how we relate to sexuality as a conditioning. I feel I'm not allowed says it all. Who doesn't give you permission? And who do you give power to in terms of what is allowed and what is not allowed, right? So in discovering a whole new level of our freedom in sexuality, we also will come across our conditioning, the things we have consciously and most of the times unconsciously learned through our upbringing and through decisions we've made as children, as adolescents, as young women in our experience with sexuality. And we have given a lot of our power, one, because we don't know we have that power, but also because the culture we live in educates us. It's not in our hands. The power is not in our hands. Somebody else has the power, right? So automatically we give the power away and we feel trapped and weak. And of course, we lack confidence and we are confused because the power is not in our hands and we can't do anything about it, right? So I would start with taking my power back. And I would start with consciously choosing my beliefs and what I am consciously wanting to feel. Because you'll never change something by being overwhelmed about what you discover internally that you've inherited. Most of the times that's limiting and negative. So transformation, transmutation starts with, I want something else. I want a different set of beliefs and I want to experience a different feeling. Because that will push you forward. It will give you access to a process that will enable you, right, to have something else, a different experience. So now you have an intention. One intention is, I want my power back. Who says I can't look at men, flirt with men, and enjoy sexy men? Yes? Who says that? My conditioning, my set of beliefs, my mother, my father, my husband. Okay? Do I feel strong enough to deal with that with them? Maybe not. But that doesn't mean I can't give myself permission internally to enjoy myself, especially if that turns me on and makes me feel cool. So I take my power back and I give myself permission to explore myself, to enjoy myself, to like what I like and don't like what I don't like, to engage with what turns me on and to explore, because that will also change. As you explore your sexuality, your taste will change. Yes? Because it's also a developmental process. And you have to move with that developmental stages of your sexual awakening. Go for it. Give yourself permission and enjoy it. Okay? And if feelings of shame or inadequacy, uncomfortableness, guilt are showing up, that's your emotional work. And you work with them through your relationship of motherly loving your inner child. Giving your inner girl permission to get rid of the shame. Learning a new language, learning a new set of emotions that you start choosing consciously, and then fake it till you make it. Start cultivating in your life. So whenever shame comes up, you say, okay, I release the shame and I choose pleasure. And maybe sometimes shame will be the price you have to pay. It will melt. It will go away if you move on the path, if you trailblaze yourself, right? If you give yourself permission to venture beyond the territory you have known. It's scary. It's an unknown territory. It feels alone, but you're not. I'm here. We are a community. We are supporting one another. So give yourself permission. I would start with that. And enjoy what you enjoy. And don't justify it. Just live it. I would start with that. Another question. I don't have the power to feel free with men in lovemaking so that I can climax and have orgasm. It's been a lot of years since I discovered even the capacity to orgasm. And I would love the freedom to manifest myself freely in couple without shame, without the judgment of myself and of my partner, and without suppressing or withholding pleasure. How can I do that? Because I don't feel satisfied with just experiencing half of the pleasure. Thank you. I love that. I love this phrase. I don't feel satisfied to experience just half of the pleasure. And I think here's everything starts with that. I want more. And that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Everything starts with I want more, because this will also give you the motivation and the courage to go for it, to venture into new territories, go through the process of discovering more, finding out more, and eventually having it. So I would start with giving yourself permission to discover what is truly in the way of you feeling free to experience pleasure by yourself and with another. And I say by yourself because a fundamental stage that's been missing in our sexual life, in our sexual education, in our sexual capacity is initiating the adolescent inside of us into sexual life. So most of our shame, self-judgment, pressure, lack of education, lack of experience, our restriction comes from our adolescent not feeling safe to talk about sex, not being initiated into sexual life and sexual energy, not feeling contained and held with loving embrace by a gentle, wise mother as she progressively starts to know her body, explore sexual energy, explore masturbation, explore lovemaking, explore orgasms, and coming to a full blossoming of her sensual nature, which then creates a foundation for her sexuality, which then helps her embody her sexual energy in such a way in which she's a thriving embodiment of her sexual potential. So it actually starts with your adolescent. And it's about going back in time and becoming the mother you never had, I never had, that looks at the adolescent with love and care and says to her, let's talk about sexuality. Let's talk about what we want to discover, explore, and experience in our sexuality. Let's figure that out for ourselves. Let's learn more. Let's read more. Let's explore different things, practices, techniques. Let's discover our own territory. I give you permission as a mother to go there. And I'm not only giving you permission, I'm going to hold you by the hand. We're going to do this together. It's going to be a girly, fun thing. And we're going to bond through it. And in that experience, what you are going to awaken is a healing process of empowerment, of love and forgiveness, of seeing your adolescent self as a sexual creature, which sole purpose is not to discover sex, but to discover herself as a wild, bewildering, amazing, majestic being that will open the door, open the universe of our sexuality is so much connected to our art, our creativity, our healing, our spirituality, our wisdom. When I sat with my adolescent and she was very traumatized and I was very afraid of her, and eventually I gathered my courage and I said, okay, let's move into motherhood because this is not working. And actually, I got triggered by the answer to the next question. I said, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. It was all about the trauma. It was all about how depressed and sad and dark her adolescent years was, and how unseen and unloved and untouched she was, not by a sexual boy, but by life, by parents, by her mother, by humanity. And I discovered that when I allowed her to be the sexual creature that she is, what got birthed through that process wasn't more sex. It was the artist in me. It blew my mind away. What was the chances and the connection between my sexuality and me being a painter? 100% direct connection. And the moment I saw my suppression, but not allowing her sexual nature to be the way it was, not allowing her as a human being who has feelings, senses, things to just be, and seeing her in her wholeness, right? Through the loving touch and awareness of a beautiful, aware, connected mother. What came through wasn't a sexual creature, was an artist who had a sexual energy that she intuitively wanted to use to create art. And when I gave her permission to be an artist, I had a huge sexual breakthrough. So, mind-blowing. In the same relationship with the same men, having the same sexual problems and, let's say, breakthroughs. So nothing changed on the surface in my sexuality. I went into mothering my inner girl. I gave her permission to be a painter. And for the first time in my life, after 10 years of devoted practice, I was able to finally have orgasm in my G-spot. And I'm a Tantra facilitator, and I've invalidated myself forever because I've used all the techniques and I couldn't orgasm with my G-spot ever. At some point I said, what if, fuck it. I'm just going to not have a G-spot orgasm and that's it, regardless of how trained I am. And I just dropped it because I tried everything. Okay? and for many years with many men. All right, or not many men, but like not one man. I wasn't stuck. I was when I did my tantra facilitation processes and programs, I was free. I wasn't in a long-term relationship, so I was free to have sex with multiple men, and nothing happened. And no technique, no man could unlock my G-spot. I was so traumatized, and it had nothing to do with sexual techniques or sex or men. That's what I'm always saying. It's not about the sex, and it's not about the man, and it's not about the technique. It's about feeling safe. And feeling safe starts with mothering our inner girl and our inner adolescent and ourselves in that process. Okay? So I would start with that, because your feelings of shame and guilt are not connected to sexuality or with your relationship to the current man you're with. They're connected to your adolescent and your inner girl. And they need love. They need love like all children. Even if they're adolescents, adolescents are still children. They still need love. And it starts with us paying attention to what they need and discovering what they are and loving them and embracing them and giving themselves permission to take on new habits, develop new discovery rituals, and adopt new beliefs and cultivate new emotions. Just like we have to learn, they have to learn, and we learn together. So that's how I would start having a breakthrough with this question. And the last question, how to deal with depressive states due to the lack of intimacy in my relationship. I feel down after attempts for sex that led to disappointment because my partner loses his erection. This makes me feel not enough as a woman. So actually my breakthrough with my adolescence started when I felt sexually rejected by my partner. It was actually my current partner a couple of years ago. And we were going through this stage of our sexual relationship where he felt that I'm challenging him too much to show up in our sex life in a conscious manner. He had a very immature sex pattern, and I couldn't make love with him in that way. And I decided he either mans up and learns something new, or I'm not going to have sex. And that bruised his ego. So basically, as a result, I'm giving you a little bit of context, he started rejecting me sexually because he didn't want to put in the effort. And then I didn't want to say yes to anything that was less than the minimum set of conditions in which I feel safe, comfortable, honorable in lovemaking with a man. So we hit a big spot, okay? And I'm giving you this context, but it can be any other reason why your sexual life with your current partner, especially in long term, doesn't work. It can be he's not having an erection. It can be a battle of powers on a different area that's, affecting your sexual life. It can be many things. So basically, the partner rejects you. You want more love, intimacy, sex, and he's saying no because he either can't provide you with that sexuality and that stamina and that level of power, or he doesn't want to because of different things, okay? So basically, the man's rejecting you, and you feel less of a woman, okay? And I have went there. I know that freaking feeling. It's horrible, and I've hated it. I still hate it. It still gives me hateful, intense orgasms, orgasms of hate, right? No, it gives me horrific, intense, sensorial hate experiences in my body whenever I just read a question like this. So I know firsthand as a woman how that feels. But I want to tell you something very powerful. Nobody can make you feel anything. Your husband, your lover, your friend, your man, your woman partner can sexually reject you because of many reasons that are theirs. But the choice is yours if you choose to give your power away and feel less of a woman because somebody, for different reasons, rejects you. Of course, that's harder to do than say. But nobody has power over how you feel. regardless of what they do. And if you choose to make it about you being less of a woman, that's on you. Do you have the desire to make love with your lover? And the moment he can't because he rejected you, he invalidates you. What do you do with that desire? What do you do with that lack? What do you do with those experiences of feeling rejected? Because it's like a poisonous arrow that just hits into your belly or your heart, right? So of course it sucks. It's a horrible experience. And I wouldn't wish on any woman, but it happens more frequently than we want to. But what do you do then? You put a stop to that. You develop a filter between you and that arrow. And you take the arrow, if it hit your body, you take it away like you take a bullet out. You take the arrow out, you drop it, because here we practice compassion. You drop it, you don't give it back to him, okay? You don't revenge. You just drop it. You practice compassion and love for mankind and womankind. You drop it, and then you say, I won't give you permission to hurt me. You don't have that permission. My desire, my need, my want, it's not reciprocated. Fine, I get it. It's a no. But I can make that no neutral if I can honor the no, understand I have a desire that cannot be met. I honor the no. Honoring the no with no resentment, it gives your power back to you. It makes you understand your partner is not ready for you. He's rejecting you because he's not ready for you. And in respecting his no, it doesn't matter that his no is coming from his trauma, from his ego, from his limitations. You need to respect where he is and his no. If you can honor his no won't have power over you. And then you have to take accountability for your desire. Okay? So your desire of love and intimacy in a relationship that is not welcoming that, your lover is not ready for that, is not welcoming that, he doesn't want that, he can't, right? Is now your problem, not his, not ours. It's your problem because you already said no. And in honoring the no, you not only disentangle from this negative dynamic, but you also take your power back and you say, okay, but I have more desire to love him. I have desire to make love with him. I have desire to be an orgasmic woman. What do I do with all of this desire of love, of intimacy, of sex, of pleasure? Good question. Amazing question. What do you do with all of that desire? Perfect question. Because it's not up to anybody to fulfill you. Not even your man. Okay? It's up to you. You want that. You desire that. Fulfill yourself. Fulfill yourself. Become independently capable of thriving, of fulfilling your sexual love, your romantic love with yourself. And there are two directions once you take accountability. One, it will be, I don't know how to. Great. Discover. Learn how to. Map your own territory. Don't wait for somebody to give you access to an orgasmic life. You have that right. You're a woman. Shakti moves through you. Give yourself access to an orgasmic life. Learn how to. Do the work. Fulfill yourself. Or it will push you into your feelings of abandonment, of rejection, of trauma, which is all about mothering your inner girl and inner adolescent and doing that deep, needed work. You know, it was horrible that my partner rejected me. And I knew I didn't want to compromise. So my power over my own boundaries and the quality of sexual life I want to live with myself as an extension with any man trumps me losing a man. I'd rather lose a man than compromise on my standards. Man needs to meet me at my minimum to even engage sexually. And even today, It's the standard for me. I do not have sex with any man. Now I'm in a long-term monogamous relationship, but even with my current partner, I do not engage unless he is meeting my standards. It's just because the work I've done with myself has put me in a position where I do not compromise on that. And it's about working within your body. We're going to talk about that in a different episode. But, nobody can have power over you. So he rejected me, and I wasn't willing to back down. It was a power struggle. It had nothing to do with sex, okay? And he wasn't willing to give up his ego. Fine, then we're not having sex. That's it. Or we can't have sex because my partner is having problems in his sexual life and he needs to look at it. Okay, we're not having sex. But then that doesn't mean I can't have sex. And it doesn't mean I have to cheat on my husband or my partner, but I can have sex with my own self. I can have sex with Shakti. I can have an orgasmic life. I can have multiple orgasms. Okay? And I don't even have to masturbate. I just have to learn the practices and give myself permission. And when I gave myself permission to not feel offended, hurt, rejected by him anymore, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to go down that path. These are my standards, but I'm not also going to feel now a victim of my own standards and of this dynamic. I'm going to cut cords with this, with my person, with my actual partner. I'm going to cut cords and I'm going to focus on me and what I want and what I need. And I started this very important devotional practice with myself where I sit with my sexual energy. I sit with my desire for sex. I sat with my need for orgasms, and I started channeling and connecting consciously with my sexual energy. I think 3-4 days into the practice, I even forgot I have a husband who doesn't want to have sex with me. I was so turned on by where the process was taking me. I even forgot I was, I was so absorbed by my own process. And I think it took 1.5 years. He was suffering, but he was so egotic that he didn't want to, eventually I moved miles away. I left him behind. 1 year, 1 year I was so into this healing process that got stirred up. And I wasn't deprived of anything, right? Because I was using my sexual fire to break through into very important things within myself, and including my sexuality. He was suffering because he was trapped in his ego and he couldn't say, you know what, I'm stupid, I'm sorry, I apologize. You're right, teach me how to have multiple orgasms and let's have an amazing sexual life. It took him 1.5 years to get off his ass and off his ego and say, you're right, I'm wrong. And eventually, one day he came into the office and I said, I'm stupid. And I said, about what? About our sexual life. And I said, now you figure, it took you a while, you're very stubborn. Yeah, I'm in. I said, okay, fine, I can teach you, no worries. I was so free and so happy and in miles away, right? And I didn't cheat him. I didn't need to. I had my whole orgasms the way I wanted, when I wanted. Actually, my sexual energy pushed me into healing my own trauma in a very extensive and complex way. The sexual libido and the sexual fire of this process led me into healing. I didn't even need that stage of the process because I needed to heal so much of my trauma with my adolescent. And eventually, healing and becoming the mother I never had to my adolescent led me to a whole new physical and sexual and energetic breakthrough in my own sexuality, spontaneously and with nobody's input. And all of a sudden, once I embodied and accepted my artist nature, I was able to literally have G-spot orgasms by myself. And I even had, those orgasms while in meditation. It was mind-blowing. It was even mind-blowing for my tantric, mentors and teachers. I actually emailed them and I said, you know what? This is what happened to me. This is like the manual of Tantra. And I said, yeah, wow, you're living it. It's like, I can't believe it. And eventually, of course, as I break through that pattern, that paradigm, that low frequency of which I was mirroring and entangled with my partner, right? He was rejecting me because that was the wound of my adolescence. We were coming in partnership. He was a mirror for my own trauma. When I had a breakthrough with that, eventually he had his own breakthrough and he discovered he's stupid. And he was able to acknowledge that he's stupid, and eventually his adolescent had a breakthrough. He was trapped in his adolescent, not letting him become a man. So eventually my breakthrough led to his breakthrough, but I didn't do anything. I just dropped him. I said, fine, if you want to stay there, stay there. I have better work to do and better time spent about me and my life and my orgasms. You don't have power over me. Nobody has power over you. The only thing that's missing is you being willing to put in the effort, the work, the love, the practice that's required for you to fill your own cup. That's it. And of course, what is the ultimate result of that? You become a priestess. You become an initiator. You become somebody ready to give access to a man to something amazing, to an orgasmic life. Because you'll be the embodiment of that work. And you'll be the cradle of that work. And you'll hold space for men to go through their own deconditioning. And I promise you, I've had that. I'm a tantric facilitator, and I've practiced tantra, and I've researched tantra and pleasure and sex and orgasmic life for many years. So I had the chance to experience what I'm sharing now with multiple partners. And I haven't met anybody who didn't surrender eventually as a man to me. But the number one key to transmute and help a man decondition their own sexual dynamic so that they can have a breakthrough is for you to be fully embodied and stick to your own ground and enjoy your life and your potential and the heritage of Shakti moving through you unencumbered. And don't give your power away. You are their shining example. You are the role model. You are their beacon of light. And they need you because you're the light in their own darkness. So if you compromise on that, if you sell yourself short, you just don't carry what it takes for the breakthroughs you need to have and he needs to have and both of you need to have, right? So that there's a breakthrough. There's an actual chance for a different sex life between you and your partner. Having said all of that, I think we can wrap this episode. It's a strong subject. We're going to need more episodes on it, definitely. And we're going to come back with the second episode because we are on a roll and I can't wait to explore all of these things. So make sure you ask your questions, especially after today. Make sure you join me live. And I'm going to invite you strongly to invite all the women in your life, okay? All the women in your life to join our free community. Join us live here. Give them access to this amazing set of informations because they're right in front of you and you can make a huge difference by spreading the word. So invite all the women in your life to this amazing Telegram community. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to read your questions for next time. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Feminine Podcast. Next week, we'll dive into another engaging topic chosen by you, our listeners. Have a question or a story to share? Check the description box below and send it our way. And before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on our next episode. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube, and make sure you comment, ask questions, and share our episode with other women in your life. Remember, every dialogue we have is a step closer to discovering your feminine potential and how you can create a life that's truly feminine, a life that you love. Catch you next week.